My advice to all educational leaders would be to do what you expect our students to do. I think AI is bringing about artificial intelligence, and the rise of ChatGPT has brought us to a point that we need to learn. We need to research, we need to collaborate, we need to learn from others, and we need to ask the questions and listen to others who've had similar issues before they become our problems. We need to put in place those policies and supports and guidelines for schools so that we know what to share with our parents, with our teachers before it becomes a problem. So we have to be those lifelong learners and be on the forefront of it and be proactive as we expect our students to do when they're learning new content or material, something that's very unfamiliar.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
I'm Dr. Angela Grunewald. I'm superintendent of Edmond Schools in Edmond, Oklahoma. We just crossed over the 26,000 students this year, and we have those with 30 school sites, and we are a growing district. We grew by 700 students last year, so continuing to get bigger every day.
Hello, I'm Charlotte McDavid. I'm the Executive Director of Academic Innovation and Technology for Greenville County Schools. We're located in Greenville, South Carolina. Our district has 77,000 students plus and growing, and we cover 800 square miles. We have 51 elementary schools, 20 middle schools, and 16 high schools, along with other programs, career and technology centers, and early childhood centers, totaling approximately 101 sites.
Hello, my name is Jake Bacon, Assistant Superintendent for the Hermiston School District, located in Eastern Oregon. We have approximately 5,400 students, K-12 setting, across 9 buildings.
How have you been successful in increasing parent engagement to help keep students safe on social media?
Our great relationship with our Edmond Police Department. We have brought in their cybersecurity expert and their cybersecurity detective to hold, it's part of our parent university, but they hold parent classes for our parents on what apps to watch for. What are your children doing online that you don't know? And it has been one of our hottest and highest attended breakout sessions because when parents hear it, they all start telling each other, you've got to go to that session. And it has been very good for our parents to hear and learn what is out there and what their children have access to.
We host sessions for our parents in which we share with them some of the potential pitfalls in keeping their children safe. We're very fortunate in Greenville County Schools to have a partnership with the Sheriff's Department and to also have our internal office with ETS. Rick Floyd goes out and does presentations. He formerly has worked with law enforcement and the FBI, so he gives a lot of up-to-date information to our parents, letting them know what to look for, the kinds of conversations they need to have, and the kinds of things they need to be on the watch for. That's one part of it. We also use our own platform. Greenville County Schools has a platform that we built called Backpack, Parent Backpack. And we're able to not only reach our parents on our website, but we're able to send messages to targeted groups of parents, targeted groups of, and they get an email, they get a text message, and we're able to make them aware of things. For example, recently, when things happen in the news, sometimes students will get things confused. Sometimes people will confuse Greenville, South Carolina with Greenville, North Carolina, and school names. And so when there perhaps is a report on social media that there's an imminent threat at a school, we're able to send a backpack message out to our parents that goes straight to their text messages that informs them of what it is, gives them the link, and lets them know that we're on top of it. We've actually looked into it. When there are things that come through on the see something, say something, we want to be able to communicate with our parents as well. This is something that you may have heard. This is how we've looked into it. So, this is what we do. And we send out the voice message through that as well.
Working with families to keep, or just, develop tools to be safe while using social media. Our high school's done a great job of incorporating that into their conferences. And I'll say conferences, and it began as conference nights, the traditional format, and it has evolved over the last 2 years, and then prior to COVID is when it began. But it's now become a resource event. So families are able to come in, and that's where they can have booths set up where parents can go and ask questions and just reach out. So we have people from the community. We have a countywide care program that works with families, and so they're on site during that time.
Are there any stories that come to mind about any social media incidents you've been able to get in front of or avoid by being proactive? And everybody that's watching this knows that it's so hard to gauge proactive things. Having that healthy dialogue early on and often, we all know the danger of what could happen if a student is stressed, anxiety, depression, or have ideation about anything. Have you heard of anything from either student chatter or feedback from parents about something you were able to stop or something you were able to help because of that proactive social media safety and that rich dialogue with the students?
One of the protocols or procedures we have in place for teachers when they use Google Meets is they have to use one of our internal links, not an external link like we're using for this. But and then through that, it blocks all outside because only people with an admin address can get into that. And we had that in place. And then one time when we did not use it, you would know is the one time someone hacked in and did something inappropriate in front of a whole class on a Google Meets. And so it really reinforced why we had that in place to begin with. And word got out quickly. That's why they do it. And be sure and always use your internal Google Meets link.
The incidents that come to mind not only include that see something, say something where students make reports, but we've used in a proactive way technology through a tool. Some other school districts may be aware of Gaggle, for example. We use Gaggle to monitor what our students are doing on our district issued devices, the types of words and the keywords that let us know 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, what may be happening, what types of things students are looking at. We block things that they shouldn't be getting to the extent possible, but we also know how they're communicating with others. With that tool, we've been able to send, there's one example that we were discussing in a brief meeting in alternative programs where we were able to see what a student was posting and a student was sharing, and it was something that Gaggle picked up on through this school issued device. We were able to take that imminent threat, our 24-hour monitoring, pick that up. We contact law enforcement, who with our partnership with Grunewald County Sheriff's Department works with us. We send them to the household. The parent was not aware that there was an imminent threat in the household, but was made aware by law enforcement, and truly we were able to save the life of a student. We've also, as a district, subscribed to the Gaggle mental health support. And as we're moving forward, we recognize that even though we have mental health counselors in every school, that's still not enough. We are subscribing to give the parents an option that they and their child can participate in online mental health counseling at no charge to them. And sometimes we're able to recommend or trigger that based on what we see and what the students are doing and by monitoring. It's a safe monitoring. We feel like we're not looking at everything, but using those key words and having eyes on what's happening so that we can keep our students safe.
I think our conversations with social media have really provided the opportunity to be proactive in certain situations. And I'll speak specifically, we have received more swatting type situations into our schools than we have ever experienced before. This school year, we've gone into lockdown more times than we ever have. With that, some of the feedback we received from the parents and the kids too is our primary outlet was quick to get information out on social media, let parents know what's happening, where they're at. But in our initial process this year, the event would begin, we would work through it, and then we would provide information out and with all the correct information of what's been happening. Well, that was taking anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes, and people, they need it quicker. So, and they talked to us about that. So now what we do, as soon as an event begins, we quickly post on social media, hey, we're aware of a situation that's occurring at this location. Here's what we know at this point. We'll update as soon as possible. And so that goes within 2 or 3 minutes of the incident being acknowledged. And then we follow up with details later. And that's really helped calm people down in those situations where their kids are in a building that's locked down.
What would your advice be to educators like you and other administrators to work together to create a culture of digital safety and responsibility, both in the school, the community, and the districts?
One of the campaigns that we did was a Think Before You Post campaign, and I know several other districts have done that. I mean, we made the T-shirts, the yard signs, everything, and just trying to get the word out there that there are repercussions for things that you post on social media, and teaching children and students and even our teachers to think before you post. And that was probably one of the most successful campaigns that we've had. And we go back to that. We just keep, remember, think before you post.
My advice to all educational leaders would be to do what you expect our students to do. I think AI is bringing about artificial intelligence, and the rise of ChatGPT has brought us to a point that we need to learn. We need to research, we need to collaborate, we need to learn from others, and we need to ask the questions and listen to others who've had similar issues before they become our problems. We need to put in place those policies and supports and guidelines for schools so that we know what to share with our parents, with our teachers, before it becomes a problem. So we have to be those lifelong learners and be on the forefront of it and be proactive, as we expect our students to do when they're learning new content or material, something that's very unfamiliar.
Well, I think to create a community, just awareness of social media and interaction, and not only does it start here at our local levels, but really that work from the state and being able to have the ability, the flexibility to dedicate the time that's truly needed to help kids learn it and understand it. With all the requirements that are set in place for schools, it makes it a challenge to balance all of the information that kids need. And social media is definitely one that is increased, and it's something that kids are going to be working with that us as adults at maybe our age, we didn't grow up with it necessarily, but our kids now are born with it. So I think we need an overall statewide shift too in our thought process with it. But at our local levels, we do community forums where they come in and visit with families. And so that's an opportunity where we can talk about it and engage.
Excellent. Okay, next question. What are your 1 to 2 biggest social media concerns for the future?
Mm-hmm. It is the access that students have to strangers, people they don't even know. And they begin to think that these, even if it's another student, they think they're best friends, but there's no relationship there. They don't know who they are, aside from the fact that it could be an adult, it could be a predator. And that is one of our biggest concerns. And another part of the training that we do for our students is you don't know who you're talking to on these websites and on these social media apps.
One of my largest concerns around student success is the appropriate use of artificial intelligence, so that we are not only now training our students how to know and discern what is real and what is not. That's one of our standards that came along. I remember when Common Core came along and they said, we're going to teach our students how to discern the truth in news. I thought, the news is always true. Well, we've learned that's not always the case. And people were responding to what they heard. Now with artificial intelligence, there's a possibility students may be able to see something and see a person saying or doing something that's absolutely not real. So for our students to be able to not only discern what's real or not, but also to be accurate in what they depict as good social citizens, that's something that we're going to have to continue to work with them. The importance of being truthful in what they do and how they represent themselves in social media. That is a large piece of what needs to happen. I'm looking and watching, and there are stories of people who have grown in their career and their political careers by creating things that just aren't real. That's something that our students, if they're going to be successful, as easy as it is to create something, it's even easier to have your world come crumbling down when that is found out to not be true. So honesty and integrity in social media is just as important as honesty and integrity in real world.
In the age of social media, we call it the age now, but it's really in day-to-day life with social media. The biggest concerns that we are seeing right now in our area is the peer-to-peer interactions and how kids speak to one another, and then how it translates to their face-to-face communication. It's really impacted how kids are communicating, and it creates a lot of anxiety for kids with that social media, how they're being interacted with and how they're able to say information, and they don't have to look at anybody when they say that information. So that right now is our number one issue, is how kids are interacting. The second largest challenge is staying ahead of social media rumors and how quickly information can spread that doesn't have the facts behind it. So those are our two biggest issues right now.
And that's a good one. Social media rumors, and also interaction, the lack of skills on interacting. How do you shake a hand? How do you say hi and keep eye contact?
And the kids there's very little parent oversight. There are so many opportunities for kids to be able to mask communication and how they're communicating with people and what they're doing online. Even for parents who are involved in it, it's difficult to stay on top of it, especially if you're not really active in social media. So I think that's another issue with it too.
Funding is difficult. What advice would you give to other districts to secure funding to create resources that parents need?
One thing is, you have to think beyond next year. It has to be a long-range tech plan. And we have worked that through our bond planning, and we are planned out up to 10 years for our bond planning. We will run a bond every other year, and technology is always a line item on there. And then always think about rotation of your devices. Especially if you used a large chunk of your ESSER funds to buy devices, those will all go off end of life about the same time. So what is your plan to be replacing them over time so that you don't hit that wall?
I would encourage our school districts across the state to look at collaborative efforts that involve community leaders, business leaders who are interested in building the global citizens for tomorrow, and having them work with us to fund those opportunities for parents and students and teachers to work together. In project-based or problem-based learning, where students are working to solve real problems, they need to understand that those resources not only come together, but the instruction in terms of priorities, that needs to be a part of how we collaboratively educate. So funding can come from multiple sources. I would also advise any district to use a system to vet what is purchased. There are so many things coming to us, and vendors, they promote their products, and the persons who are selling them, they really believe that what they are offering is a solution. But we need to be very careful as educational leaders that we vet those, that we look at our needs very, very seriously, and we keep the main thing the main thing. I was recently working with a school, a request that came through for someone that wanted to use there's a tool that will take all of students' information and build your class rosters for you. Well, that's interesting. That's something we have done as educational leaders. We look at our students' education, their friends, their parent requests, the teachers, the attitudes, behaviors, all of that, and we have always created a roster. And we've kept all the, I guess you would say, all the coding behind that it's all been here. Well, there's a tool that says you can put all this information, IEP, multilingual learner information, you can put all of that into the system and we'll build your rosters for you. And to help our principals to see, is that something we really need to do with technology, or is that something that still needs to be something we do personally? Know that what you're investing in is something that will continue to keep your student data safe. It's something that can maintain the integrity of your organization and not put your students, your teachers, and your parents even at risk of student data being stolen or being misused.
Funding is always an issue in school districts, and one of the priorities that we have is we make sure that we budget for our priorities. And that has been the biggest shift over the last 6 years for us in our district. Is we always prioritized our budgeting, but now we are really taking that and we are making sure that we're putting the funding where our priorities are for our kids. And You can get into specific pots of money and funds and how you move it around to support different things, but the general overall is really making sure that identifying those priorities and then having our budget match that.
Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the link below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.